wanna speak while you're distracted by the levels you dare to climb. A straight shooter with nostalgia I haven't felt in a long while. You make it feel like it's the arcade when we're playing pixel out until the day breaks. We'll keep breaking down, let's hope the next play. Things change, the score is rising as the screen fades. They ain't over when you stay. Now who's that saying they're the pinball wizard? He moves too slow with his grubby little fingers. Keep pressing buttons and see what gets triggered. I'll just smile and watch him reconsider again.
Woo! Good grief. Wendy's got beef. This is the Fight Guy. I'm your host, Guy Pert. And I'm going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 103 Kape versus whatever Asu's last name was again. All the fights that happened last night, be giving my reaction to all the notable ones. Following the breakdown, I'm going to give you my reaction to Gaethje versus Fiziev II, which I, myself, the Fight Guy, will be in attendance for. And then we're going to touch up the Fight Guy's 2025 bingo card. A piece hit last night. Going to get into all of it. First, if you don't already follow me on X, you should, because I give all my predictions for the fights, even for the weeks where I'm not able to do a prediction video like this week and Seattle. So, if you follow me on X, then you knew what was going on. I went 2-3 on the prelims and 3-2 on the main card. We're going to get into all the fights, starting with Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Temirov. What can I say about this fight? I had Charles Johnson winning. He's got wins over a lot of great guys in the UFC. Ramazan, I haven't seen a whole lot of him before, so, I went with what I knew better, Charles Johnson. Charles did great, except he was just a little bit too slow to start this fight. So he lost the first round to Ramazan, who just was forward pressuring and had more volume. Charles Johnson had more success when he controlled the center of the octagon. Whenever he let Ramazan push him up against the fence, Ramazan, the shorter fighter with less reach, the reach disadvantage, if you will, went to town on Johnson. He did find success whenever he opened up to the body at the end of round 2, but too little too late, right? Charles Johnson didn't act soon enough in that fight with his adjustments to win a decision. I thought he would win the decision, but he lost the decision. He just didn't do enough until the third round was his best round. He turned it up at the end of the second, like I said, but too little too late. 29-28 decision victory for Ramazan. Excited to see who both these guys get next. Charles is a dog. All right, he could have won that fight if he made the adjustments just that much sooner. Just took him a little bit too long. And he admitted that on X. Ramazan, excited to see who they give him next. It was a great fight. Good win for him. Next fight, we had Andrea Lee versus JJ Aldrich. Why does the UFC give us the bathroom breaks fights as the second fight in the card? I mean, we could have all used this fight to be 4 or 5, maybe the end of the prelims, just to give us time to go to the bathroom before the decent fight started. I had to bottle it up for this fight card, so I had a little bit of, it's not their fault, but damn it, dissent towards these two. Andrea Lee really cementing herself as the Tony Ferguson of the women's MMA. She loses her 6th straight in a row. There's really not much to say about this fight. JJ was just a little bit better everywhere, a little bit busier. Her shots hurt a little bit more than Andrea. Cut them both from the UFC, please. Moving on, the next fight, Danny Silva versus Lucas Almeida. I had Danny Silva winning this one. It was a violent first round, slowed down a little bit, but Danny Silva was just busier, landed a little bit more strikes, landed, a little bit of control time. It wasn't anything special. If I remember, there was a spinning elbow or something in the first round. This fight didn't stick out to me too much. I thought it would end. I thought Danny would knock him out, but both guys hung in there. So, split decision, goes to Silva. We move on. Next fight, we had Ricardo Ramos versus Kape Mariscal. This was a great fight. I had Kape to win. He was coming off of 7 straight victories, I believe, like against some young studs in the UFC too, like Jack Jenkins, Trevor Peek, and Damon Jackson. But yeah, this was a great fight for Kape. Ramos got beat the hell down. He needs to be cut from the UFC. I'll just dig into it. Round 1, Mariscal was pressuring forward more, landing high kicks. He got a takedown in round 1. Ramos countered with like a spinning elbow, but not much volume. It was an easy 10-9 for Mariscal. Round 2, Mariscal kept up the same pace as round 1, landing short elbows, hooks, controlling clinch time against the cage. Ramos had a clean left hook and just a lot of spinning attacks that were just ineffective at all. It was another 10-9 round for Mariscal. Thinking that we'd see some urgency from Ramos in the third, which we did. I thought Ramos may have even been able to walk away with a third round. Maybe. But that was a bit of a stretch. None of the judges gave it to him. Same as the first 2 rounds, except Mariscal rocked Ramos with a hard right hand and stuffed a takedown following. This is where he got 30-plus strikes off with the control that he had from that takedown. So it was an easy fight for Kape. I thought he would even get the finish at a couple points. So props to Ramos for hanging in there. But we'd like to see you fight again in Bellator maybe. Next fight, we had Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. I did go with Austin Lane for this fight. I thought that Austin was going to get the finish, too. In round 1, he had a clean knockdown, I think with a left, maybe a left hook or was a left straight hand. Something from Austin's left side of the body connected with some part of Mario's right side of his body and knocked him down in the first round. So I thought I thought he was going to finish the fight there. So he was doing a lot better than I expected. I expected it to be a pretty close fight and then Austin getting the knockout. But Austin almost got the knockout. It was a close fight in round 1. Turn the page to round 2. One of the cleanest right hands I've ever seen. I believe it was a 1-2. And that 2 was Mr. Clean Fresh. I mean, he put it right on Austin Lane's nose. Great knockout for Mario. Great comeback knockout after I thought it would be all over in the first round. Cut Austin Lane from the UFC. He's just not consistent whatsoever. Starting with the Danny Barlow versus Sam Patterson fight. Not a whole lot to say here, except a lot of people counted Sam Patterson out. I told you Sam Patterson would win. I didn't tell you. It's on my X. I thought Sam Patterson was going to win this fight. He's a tough guy. That 13-2 record is better than what it looks. He used to be a dog at lightweight. I believe his first 2 fights, his Dana White Contender Series debut was at lightweight. He's moved up since. Sam Patterson upset the undefeated Danny Barlow with a first-round knockout. Barlow started strong, but Patterson caught him with a heavy right hand. Followed it up with some ground and pound, and that's all she wrote. 3-10 in the first round. Great win for Sam Patterson. Danny Barlow, year of the fraud checks. Might be one of them. Next fight. What I believe this fight should have gotten fight of the night, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people's opinions as well. Amil versus William Gomis. I did go with Gomis on my predictions. But I was watching this fight live on Twitter Spaces with PC Strickland and some other MMA guys in that space. We had a Muay Thai specialist in there as well. It was a very good live Twitter Spaces we did yesterday. But Amil in the first round was a plus 400 underdog, and I almost wanted to take that because this guy's relentless. He goes forward. He doesn't care as much when his chin's exposed because he could eat shots like the Incredible Hulk. This was a very close fight. It was a split decision. It went to Hyder. It could have easily went the other way. I even said that I thought that Gomis had taken that second round, the first and second rounds, but the third round was all Hyder. And the second round, Hyder really started to turn it up. You could see the look on Williams' face when he realized, holy shit, nothing I throw at this guy is going to take him down. Hyder looked like RoboCop Jr. is really the best comparison. This guy looked like a smaller version of Gregory Rodriguez. He stays unbeaten at 10-0 by edging William Gomis in a close split decision victory. An amazing fight. Both these guys are highly skilled. This is an example of a fighter losing a fight and you still being excited to see what he's got next. A lot of decision fights are one-sided. This split decision was a good showing for both guys. 11-0, Hyder. Dangerous featherweight. Another dangerous featherweight. We move on to the third fight on the main card. Nasrat Haqparast. Jesus, man. Esteban Ribovics. I thought Esteban would win this fight. It was a close fight, except Esteban just didn't show any defense at all. I mean, look at the strikes for both these guys. Both these guys threw everything and anything that they had at each other. Even Esteban landing more total strikes. Whenever you look at this scorecard, or you look at the total, like the fight summary that we're both staring at right now, and you see one fighter having more strikes, you instantly want to say, oh, he should have won that fight. Not the case. Esteban really picked it up in the third round. It was pretty evenly matched with the strikes, except for Nasrat's strikes obviously hurt more. You could see the head snap back with every jab that he threw. He was landing combination. It was just clean, harder shots. Esteban did land a dirty knee that kind of cut Nasrat's left eye. It looked like a blue baseball at the end of the fight. It was a close fight. This got fight of the night. It was a good fight. I think this is fight of the night runner-up, in my opinion. But it was a good decision for Nasrat. I didn't think it was rigged. All right, like a lot of other people. We move on to the Cody Brundage versus Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis. This was a great fight. I had Cody Brundage to win this fight. It did end with 15 seconds left of the first round, but it felt like a marathon. Both these guys had moments. I thought Julian Marquez was going to get the knockout when he knocked Cody Brundage's mouthpiece out. And then it was funny enough about the ref let them both go for 30 seconds. I think it was Mark Smith. Let both these guys go for 30 seconds without a mouth guard, which is ridiculous. Fuck me. Both these guys needed this fight. Loser obviously was going to get cut from the UFC. I believe Julian Marquez did retire. But you could see the moment in that fight where Cody Brundage realized, like, okay, if I don't do anything right now, this could be my career. Or I could bite down on this mouth guard and make something happen. And he got up against the cage despite getting his ass handed to him and didn't have a mouth guard, just started swinging for the fences. And, yeah, Mark Smith did give them a break right when Marquez was having his momentum, so both guys could put their mouth guards in. But Cody Brundage caught the better of Julian Marquez. Great win for Cody. I am not the biggest on this guy, but I've not been as hateful of him as a lot of other people are. Look, he's had some tough tests, even against Bo Nickel and some of the other guys that he's been in the octagon with, especially Julian Marquez. I know Julian Marquez was on a 4-fight losing streak going into this bout, but still, that's a hungry, older vet who's got nothing to lose. So it was a scary night. It could have been a scary night for both guys. Cody Brundage gets it done in the first round. It was a fun fight to watch. No mouth guards, swinging for the fences. That's wild shit. Last fight, Manuel Kape versus Asu Almabayev. That's what the last name is, Almabayev. Forgettable after the performance from last night. Let's dig into it. I mean, Kape just controlled the entire pace of this fight. Asu looked uncomfortable from the get-go when he realized, holy shit, Manuel Kape's fast. This guy's fast. The question I had for Kape going into this fight was if he would be able, or how he would be able to handle an elite level grappler. Obviously, Asu Almabayev being from Kazakhstan, that's what he's going to want to do. All right. I was curious to see how Manuel would be able to stuff the takedown attempts, how he would handle the clinch work against the cage, and my questions were answered. I've seen what I needed to see. I need to see Pantoja versus Kape next for the belt. That's what I need to see next. Manuel Kape stopped Asu Almabayev's 17-fight win streak with a stoppage in the third round via punches. It was a little bit of a controversial fight with the eye pokes. All right, the first eye poke, I will say, was an overhand right with the pinky knuckle hitting right in between the left eye and nose of Asu. That pinky knuckle must have felt like an eye poke, so they stopped the fight briefly, only to review and confirm that it was not an eye poke, so the fight went on. Kape was winning the first round, was winning the second round, and then the third round, this happened. I'll just go ahead and play the clip right here. A double eye poke. It looks like an eye scratch, Stockton slap, okay, not really a poke there. I guess you can let the fight go on, and then boom. You got to stop the fight for that. You got to stop the fight for that. I understand that Kape was absolutely dominating him. You could see even in this slow motion, few second long video, Asu was backpedaling that entire third round that existed. Even the end of the second, he was running away from Kape. It was crazy. It's like a women's MMA matchup that was uneven. What can I say? The UFC needs to do something about these eye pokes. No matter what the situation is in the fight, No matter who's winning, who's losing, is it almost going to be a stoppage and then the guy gets eye poked? Do you let it go on? Absolutely not. If there is ever an eye poke, you need to stop that fight. This is a permanent damage. It's like hearing damage. You don't get this back. Scratched orbitals, bro. You don't get this shit back. Once your eye's damaged, you need to consider if it's smart for you to continue your career as a professional fighter. As much as I am impressed from Kape last night, these eye pokes, whether it's Song Yadong, whether it's Manuel Kape, I don't care who it is. If your finger goes in another fighter's eye, it needs to be reviewed, and they need to start just deducting points for every one of them. If you could review and see a finger in a fighter's eye, take the point away. To Jim Miller's point, and I'm not going to fish out the tweet right now, but Jim Miller had a great tweet. Maybe I'll edit it and throw it back on the screen here for you so you could read. But Jim Miller has fought more fights than I believe any other UFC fighter has ever. If not, pretty goddamn close. And Jim Miller has never once poked another fighter in the eye. It's something that can be controlled. It's something that must be controlled. And they need to do something about it before we lose a Gaethje, or before we lose an Alex Pereira, or before we lose somebody where we have to ask the question of what if, or what could be if he didn't lose an eye. What would Michael Bisping have done if he didn't lose an eye? The UFC absolutely needs to do something about this, but I'm not going to dwell too much on that. Great win for Kape. It was a great fight card overall. I got to give it 3 out of 5 stars. It's a good rating. There just wasn't a whole lot to occur in this card, who only had 10 fights. I believe the smallest number of fights I've seen in a long time on a card. I know we did have 2 that got cut short notice, but I got to give it a 3 out of 5 just for the sole reason of there wasn't a whole lot, just like with UFC Seattle, which was an amazing card. There wasn't a lot to occur on the lineup that would change a lot in the rankings. Okay, we had a few ranked fights at the end, but it was a lot of debuts. It was a lot of guys who are, you're fighting basically for your spot on the roster. You're going to get cut, like Julian Marquez, Cody Brundage, and a couple others that I'm drawing a blank with right now, but I don't know. We're going to dig into this sensitive topic for me. Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev II was announced earlier this week, 12 minutes after my last video, which if you saw that video, you might have laughed your ass off, because right when I make a top 5 video, top 5 fighters to put in against Justin Gaethje to substitute Dan Hooker, they announced Fiziev II. Initially, I was really pissed off. Still am. I'm a little bit upset, but I'm not really pissed off like I was. I hung in there after Dan Hooker announced, he's got a broken hand. I said, all right, look, there's a few guys they could put in there. All right, they can make this fun. Gene Silva said he would do it. All right, Gamrot said he would do it. All right, there was a lot of top caliber guys that said they would do it. I believe 3 out of the 5 that I announced on my video, which I linked earlier, said they would do it. But instead, we get Rafael Fiziev, the rematch, who he's lost 2 fights since. All right, those last 2 fights, I believe, were ended in knockout. He's coming off of a full ACL tear, a whole 1.5+ year layover since he's been in the octagon. And you're trying to tell me that Fiziev's going to be 100% just as good, if not better, as he was in his last fight against Gaethje? This is crazy. I think what the UFC was trying to do is substitute the style of match that we were supposed to get. I think that they had better selections for the division. I think that they could have made something bigger happen for the division. However, they wanted to match the violence that we were going to get with Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje, and I think that they did a great job with this matchup. I will admit, I think that the UFC did a great job now that I, have gotten the processes for a couple days. And I'm very happy to go watch this fight live. It's not Dan Hooker. It's not what I paid for. It's not what I was hoping for. But I'm not going to upset the fight gods, as PC Strickland told me. And Rob, I'm not going to upset the fight guys. I'm not going to be ungrateful for what they've provided. We still get to see Justin Gaethje. This was an amazing fight the first time around. And if Justin Gaethje gets a finish, I think I'll be just as happy as I would just seeing the performance of him against Dan Hooker. So I'll take it. I'll take this one. I'm not going to say that Dana White cooked, but it could always it could always be worse. So I'll take Rafael Fiziev versus Justin Gaethje 2. I think that this is going to be an amazing fight. Gaethje was training for a 5-rounder. It's now 3, so maybe we'll see a little bit more of a sprint, a little bit more of some urgency, and we'll see Gaethje line himself up for a title shot in International Fight Week. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm going to tear into this bingo card now. Let me go ahead and hide my camera for you real quick just so you can see what we're looking at. And if you want to follow along, I will be giving out $100 to the first person who completes the bingo card correctly and tags me on X. But essentially what we had happen last night was an undefeated fighter did get finished. The Sam Patterson-Danny Barlow fight. Danny Barlow was 9-0 going into this, and he is now 9-1. So that was my space for the other night, last night. If you want to follow this, the only rules are you can only add one fight-oriented space per fight card, so once a week. As you see, some of these can happen not on a Saturday, not on a fight card, such as a card being announced in Louisiana or John Jones hitting his wife again. So some of these can happen not only on a Saturday, but for the fighter-oriented ones, such as a body slam KO, a no contest, a mouthpiece flying out after a knockout, which we almost had with the Julian Marquez and Cody Brundage fight. But my one selection was the undefeated fighter that got finished, which was Danny Barlow last night. Thank you so much for watching episode 13 of The Fight Guy. I'm going to have a special video coming this week for UFC 313 in Vegas. Make sure you check that out. This has been The Fight Guy. You have a good one.